Good day to everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Denis and I'm here with my guests so we can discuss how to leverage multi-cloud right from the front lines. We are experiencing fast and positive changes in cloud technology and cloud adoption, where cloud technology directly supports business growth. Here in studio, I have Damir Šohar and Dinko Fabrični, and remotely, in remote access, Nina Vujičić and Nilesh. Can you please, guys, tell us a couple of sentences about you, not to steal your thunder? So let's start with the ladies and the remote. Guys, Nina, can you tell something about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Vujičić. I am a senior business consultant from company Infocumulus.
Thank you. Nilesh, thank you for joining us from Boston. Can you tell a couple of sentences about yourself?
Yeah, definitely, Dennis. Thank you for having me here. My name is Nilesh. I'm Director of Product Marketing for CloudBolt Software.
And here in studio, we have Dinko Fabrični.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Dinko Fabrični and I manage a team of cloud and infrastructure architects that mostly specialize in cloud infrastructure.
And Damir.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm Damir Šohar, Senior Business Consultant from Infocumulus, working for Infocumulus for about 10 years on strategic planning and stuff.
Okay, thank you guys. Now let's go to the business. If managed properly, multi-cloud can offer more flexible, secure, reliable, and IT infrastructure more than traditional on-premises infrastructure. This is a question for everyone. In your opinion, what is the multi-cloud and what challenges and benefits would you single sign out? Dinko, you're an infrastructure master. Can you tell your
If you
point
use
of view?
multiple clouds, you can use best of both, or for all three clouds. If you talk about Azure, AWS, and GCP. So definitely benefits in each of the clouds. Each cloud has its own strong points, and if you go into multi-cloud direction, you can utilize them all. And of course, there are many challenges there, because even gaining control of one cloud appears to be difficult for many organizations. And if you go with multiple clouds, your challenges are much more difficult.
Thank you. Nilesh, you are representing one of the top multi-cloud solution vendors in the world. Can you tell your point of view and single point out one or more benefits or challenges with the multi-cloud approach?
Yeah, so I think the way we are defining multi-cloud is similar to what everyone is saying, right? So using AWS, Azure, GCP, and specifically for certain use cases, when you go towards those vendors or providers, that is how we are defining multi-cloud also. In terms of benefits, we are seeing customers using them because maybe they need multi-region support and they see that one cloud is not scaling properly in a particular region and they want to use another cloud solution there. So it provides that flexibility, and at the same time, I think cloud is getting more and more secure, right? So that is another benefit that we see also. In terms of challenges, I feel that the two main challenges are around visibility. So understanding who is using your resources and where. That becomes critical, especially for enterprises as they are scaling globally. And the second challenge that I see is around optimization, right? So making sure that you are not just spending money for the sake of spending money, you are using your resources, your services to the optimum level. That becomes very critical. And a lot of enterprises are failing to kind of optimize their cloud spend because the best practices are not in place at this point.
Thank you. Nina, you are a people expert. From your point of view and change and adoption management, what are the single most important benefits and challenges when adopting cloud technologies?
Well, I would say that benefits of adopting multi-cloud services is the organization ability to drive healthy usage of business and technical capabilities of those services. The challenge is that these capabilities have to be accepted from employee side, and how to do that smart and tenable.
Thank you. We can testify that companies are using cloud technologies to recover their business activities faster and easier after infrastructural changes, security threats, or adaptation to new marketing trends. Nina, from your point of view, who leads these digital transformation, or let's call it cloud transformation projects inside the companies? Is it infrastructure, development, the chief information officer's organization, or someone else inside the organization ecosystem?
Well, it always starts with someone in the organization, but I would say that in the end, it's a joint effort of the whole organization. When an executive vision is implemented into an organization strategy, it has to be business driven, but the technology is the key enabler of those business needs. So one without the other cannot be. And but we have to always have in mind that all these strategies, all changes are always implemented in processes that affect the heart of any change, and these are the employees. So we can say that the change is not only the change of strategies, technologies, processes, but it is also a cultural shift. So it doesn't matter where it starts from, the matter is how you deliver this change. And when we are implementing adoption change projects, we always concentrate on how to fill the gap between the executive vision and employees' experience.
Thank you, Nina. We see the companies and organizations want to get most out of their cloud technologies and vice versa out of their own cloud vendors. So Damir, as our strategist and expert for the business value assessment, what specific tangible benefits, both business and IT, does organization associate with cloud-based infrastructure?
Well, it depends on the organization and the industry the organization is in. But the most usual benefits are, when we are talking about clouds, are bigger efficiency and cost reduction, and also better security, scalability, and flexibility in terms of geography, time, and whatever the needs of the company are. When we're talking about efficiency, if you have your own data center, it's hard to fulfill everything all the time, all your resources available. So when you have peaks, you usually miss resources, and when you are at lows, then you have a lot of resources that you are not using. So cloud can help us use technology efficiently. Also, cost reductions are here, especially if we are talking about tier 3 data centers. You have to invest in many things, not only in technology, but also in infrastructure, physical security and stuff.
Okay, we know that the prerequisite for the successful cloud journey is the migration to the cloud. Which business processes should we prioritize when we talk about the cloud migration? Is there a specific methodology? How do you get to go about determining the order of importance when we talk about the cloud journey and migration approach?
In terms of discovery, we are looking at business processes and their digital maturity. Also, we have to look at the impact any migration will have on the business, and also ease of migration. It's not the same to migrate email server or some native applications that are like for 20 or 30 years on some mainframes or so.
Okay, we know that for many organizations the cost aspect has one of the largest importance. What impact can a multi-cloud strategy have on the total cost of the ownership?
Well, strategy is important because it tells you where you are going and when you are doing the migration. When we develop the strategy, we try to analyze everything. We try to know why customer is going to the cloud, what is the motivation for going into cloud. And that's how we predict the costs in the future much more precisely than if we are talking about just lift and shift. That's not the situation in reality. In practice, you have to think about many things which I learned doing stuff knows much more about this.
We can see by adopting and managing multi-cloud environment, we are on the right path to leverage existing IT investments, avoid vendor lock-in, and optimize workloads and costs. Dinko, in your opinion, how do we see which applications needs to move to cloud and what cloud environment suits them?
Well, Damir is mentioning cost a lot, and that's a very, very important thing because when we approach the usually want to know one thing: how much does it cost me to run this and this application in the cloud? So the first step we need to do is do the entire assessment of the application portfolio, and we ask many questions, such as whether this is off-the-shelf application or is it a custom-made application. Is there a source code available? What is the architecture of this application? Is it a single server app or is it a multi-tier server app? Is there some compliance or regulatory risk assigned or related to this particular application? When we find out about all these applications and we gather all this data, we start to analyze and try to map the migration approach for each of the particular application. And we do this by using the so-called 5R approach, and that is rehost, refactor, re-architect, rebuild, or replace. When we map the application with some migration approach, then we know how much will cost for this application to run in the cloud and what kind of effort we need to do this migration and how long it will take.
Okay, you gave us your point of view when we talk about what and where to migrate, but what about the question, when do we migrate to the cloud?
Well, the important thing is that the organization needs to have a right kind of motivation for migration. So it's not just migrating for the sake of the migration, but there are certain events that trigger this migration. So, for example, there might be some business events such as data center exit or cut in capital expenditure. Maybe we need to super fastly provision new services and new resources that are not normally available in the on-premises. And from that point on, we start to plan this migration with the customer and decide whether this application needs to go to the cloud or should stay on-prem.
As we see, as I understand, motivation for cloud computing and cloud migration is one of the biggest aspects of the business value assessment. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
When we do business value assessment, we are trying to find out everything that will happen in the future for that organization. We are trying to find critical business events, such as Dinko said. The most appropriate time to migrate to cloud is when you need to have big investment in your own data center. Usually, BVAs shows that.
Thank you. We need to have a thorough picture of our current landscape. How do we perform this? And in your opinion, what do we seek in our future state of architecture?
Well, yes, during these assessments, not only that we look at the applications, we look at the entire digital estate of an organization. We look for network infrastructure, we look for VMs, we look for data, and we try to assign some attributes to this digital estate. These attributes can range from business attributes and technical attributes, such as security, performance, and so on. So yeah, it's of paramount importance to do the really detailed assessment of what's there in on-prem in a traditional data center, and from that point move on and create a plan. This plan can be like I will move everything in the cloud now, also called rehost or lift and shift. You know, if I really need to go from my data center quickly in the cloud, and then when I'm in the cloud, when I have all my VMs running there, then I can, you know, slowly do the application modernization. It's, you know, years, so that's why it's better to take this approach. But sometimes an organization can keep running their servers and services on-prem in a large number of, I don't know, VMs or servers, etc. And they can slowly plan for migration and modernization of the application. I think the greatest benefit of using cloud is the possibility to use application and data innovation, to use new technologies. So not only migrating VMs, but really leveraging platform as a service. And that's what we create for the customer. You know, we create a modernization roadmap. And when we finish with this assessment, the customer gets a document, you know, and sees, okay, this is what I must do with my environment and with my applications.
Thank you. I can see that the multi-cloud management is one of the biggest concepts that is evolving around the cloud journey and modernization of IT environment. And it is a must-have component if we are utilizing resources from different public cloud providers. Multi-cloud management can ensure monitoring and managing costs, provisioning and orchestration for needed services, and of course managing IT inventory. Nilesh, in your point of view, who internally needs to manage companies' multi-cloud provision and strategy when we talk about deployment, migration, or any other activities on the services and workload?
Yeah, I think I would answer that by saying that public cloud has changed the game itself, right? So earlier in the on-premises world, what you used to see was there was a storage admin who was managing just the storage side of things. There was a network admin who was responsible for networking. But now with public cloud, I think the game has completely changed. The reason being that developers now want to stay at the forefront of using both technologies, and they want to be more productive, right? So they have the stake in this game. At the same time, I think IT is also involved very closely because they want to ensure that resources are or services are deployed and provisioned when they are required. But even teams like finance and procurement, they are also playing a critical role. And what we are seeing in the enterprise world is cloud center of excellences as a function is evolving, which includes all these different teams. And that helps not just with the flexibility side of things, but also with the governance side of things, making sure that services are there and you're spending the right amount of effort and money towards that.
So how can organization make these multiple cloud solutions where we can see that there is a really large aspect in the numbers of cloud solutions to work together? Can they really be integrated?
Yeah, I think the question is also that how do you manage these multiple environments, right? So initially we used to see that enterprises used to use worksheets or smart sheets or coding to kind of manage these environments in terms of not just provisioning again, but also visibility side of things. But now they need a solution that can scale, a solution that makes IT consumption so boring that as a consumer, you forget about those solutions, right? So the true cloud management platforms are kind of helping customers to consume services. And as a end user, I might not even care about where the service is getting provisioned and deployed. And in terms of are they actually getting integrated, we feel so, yes. For example, in our CloudBolt CMP, we see customers building multi-tier applications, and they are using different parts and pieces from different cloud providers in those blueprints. So yes, they are integrating. The challenges actually kind of differ when you go towards integration of different cloud vendors, but yes, we see that.
On top of that question, I have one more. Can we really move workloads across different cloud environments? So we can have a scenario when we or the customers moved some workload or service into the, for example, Microsoft Azure, but there is a business need or necessity to move that workload for different cloud public provider, for example, AWS or GCP?
Yeah, I think as an organization, you need to ask a question or answer the question, why do you need to move the workload, right? If it is because that you're using different regions, or if you want to provide a new service completely in EMEA and or Europe, and you're based out of Asia Pacific or North America, and maybe a particular cloud vendor is strong in that space. So we do see that workload migration is happening, but another thing that organizations need to consider is the data gravity, right? It's not just about moving the application, it's also about moving all the data that goes along with that application. So the cost, security, refactoring, as Dinko mentioned, you need to consider all of that before you move the workloads.
Thank you. And when we talk about the cost aspect, when we talk about different multiple cloud vendors, how does these activities work? How can we see and get the real truth behind the chargebacks of different departments, for example?
Yeah, I think that becomes critical, especially when you scale the cloud, right? So in the on-premises world, it was always a sunk cost, right? You have already paid for the infrastructure and you are just scaling that or using it. In the public cloud, though, the cloud usage kind of grows in an incremental fashion. So whatever you're using on day 2, on day 3, maybe you're using 20% more than that, right? So the costs accumulate. So you need to have that granular level of visibility into who is using the resources, where are they using it, and are they actually optimizing their services or the resources that are lying underneath, right? So there needs to be a continual optimization strategy by which you are defining that, okay, this workload needs a medium T2 environment or T2 instance instead of a large instance. So you need to have those reports and dashboards. And a product that company that we recently bought, Cumulus, kind of helps customers gain that visibility to make those optimization decisions.
Thank you, Nilesh. So we see when we talk about utilization of the technical related benefits of the multi-cloud environment, we must properly manage those same environments and, of course, implement postures, methodologies, and best practices, and of course utilize relevant tools and onboarding with the trusted partners, such, for example, is Cloud Vault. Dinko, in your point of view, we see that the containerization is also has a big role in this multi-cloud strategy and cloud journey. What role does container technology play across a multi-cloud environment and solutions?
Well, containers have always been created to be portable. So that means, they can run basically on any cloud platform. If we create an analogy with ship containers, we know that ship containers are all of the same size and they can be fitted onto any cargo ship. The same is with containers in IT. They are all the same size. They have the same tools that they run on. They have the same management tools in all cloud platforms that you can use to manage these same containers, and they can contain almost any application workload. When we develop an application, we don't need to think so much about each specific cloud platform infrastructure that's underneath containers. We can just create our application and then decide on which cloud we want to run this application. And as Nilesh said, there can be some kind of cost benefit of running an application in some cloud, or it can be event such as having a new data center from a particular cloud provider in our country. So that can maybe be a trigger to move this container to another cloud provider. The main thing here is that it makes it fairly easy.
So, in your opinion, are all workloads right for the cloud, or are still better to run on premises or bare metal?
Well, there are still some workloads that we would want to run on premises. So if you have a certain law that regulates that your data must be within the country, and you don't have a data center within the country, as is the case in Croatia, then maybe we need to run this workload in on-prem. Also, if we have fairly static workloads that will not change in the next 3 to 5 years, and these are some kind of cycles when we provision new hardware in the data center. If we know that this workload will not change, then this is also one of the reasons why we would choose private cloud, because it might be more cost effective for us. And there is also a security point of view. There are still some talks about that maybe security is better with the private cloud. Well, I would maybe not completely agree. I think that security, you will have data breach, everywhere, no matter if you are running public or private cloud. But I think your chances might be better if you are running in the public cloud, because public cloud providers invest a lot in security, and you cannot follow that in the private cloud. It's more difficult. So I think from the security point of view, you could argue that maybe it's safe if you have it in your own data center, but I think it's still debatable.
Nilesh, to jump on you on these security questions and the security posture overall, in your opinion, does current solutions and platforms available for multi-cloud management covers all of these aspects, or do we need to incorporate additional layer of experts when defining the overall security posture of the cloud journey and future modernization roadmap?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by current tools, right? If you do not have the right levers in current tools, maybe those are not the right tools, right? Maybe you need to find a CMP or a solution that gives you those levers. For example, in Cumulus, we have NIST, PCI, Center of Internet Security, AWS well-architected frameworks already in place. So as a consumer, you don't have to integrate those, right? We already built those in for you to start consuming. So, and there are, as Dinko said, right, there are certain nuances in terms of if you are a healthcare provider, you will have to, at least in the US, you'll have to adhere to HIPAA regulations. Or if you are in the finance industry, you need to make sure that all the data that is critical about your customers, their social security numbers or their IDs, those need to be saved very securely. So how do you do that? How do you make sure that you have that firewall in place? I agree with Dinko that public cloud has proven that it is more reliable in terms of security, but it's also a responsibility of everyone to ensure that you are following those security norms, right? So as a user, if I keep an S3 bucket open, even though AWS has the right security measures, it can still lead to a catastrophic data loss that no organization wants to be a part of.
Thank you. So we can see that cloud infrastructure ensures availability, facilitates collaboration, and the ever-growing need for the remote service access. Especially in this new normal, we can see that the drive for the cloud, the implementation of this is growing. But Nina, from the people aspect and people point of view, how do IT teams and processes mandate the changes in the organization? And what about the people-oriented change?
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, we always try to focus on the filling in the gap between executive vision, technical deployments, and impact that it has on employee experience. But what does that exactly mean? changes in organizations cannot be just implemented and then someone sends an email and says, this is how we work now. The end user experience can bounce back and employees can oppose to that change, although the change itself, in its core, is a better way of working. So if not implemented with careful thought and planning, change can make employees to go back to the old ways of working because they just had bad experience. They do not understand the technology and don't understand why this change is going on. We can see that today employees are overwhelmed with so many choices in different technologies, tools and applications, which in general can help them to collaborate better and be more efficient. So the organization has to understand why the change will do, what change they will do and why will they do it. Is it a step forward or is it a step back? Naturally, we all strive to go a step forward and we all want to improve services, control costs, increase revenue, and above all, we always want to put the customer's needs to the top of priority list. But all this should be balanced with the needs of employees to deliver on those customers' needs. Adoption and change management projects therefore must be carefully built into the language, challenges, objectives, and outcomes of organization businesses. This is why we have a discovery phase in the beginning of the whole project, and this phase needs to discover who will be the core project team, combined from both business and technical area, who are the stakeholders, what are the important business objectives and challenges, change impacts on different personas in our organization, use cases, or how we sometimes call it, business scenarios that will cover the ways how people will use the technology. And all this has to be taken in consideration when we start planning and developing the change.
Did you experience any new job descriptions, new changes in this new cloud reality? Are there any new functions, roles emerged from all of this?
Well, yes, somewhat yes. If we are talking from the adoption and change management needs. In these kind of projects, there is always a need for employees who, we can say it like this, who want to deliver more. For example, early adopters are the profile of employees who, along with their usual jobs, participate in adapting new technologies among first in the organizations. The idea behind the early adopter is that this is different than pilot groups, for example, when we are testing if everything is okay for the deployment. Early adopters give adoption project team insights on how to better govern the changes in the organization. On the other hand, we also have champions, or sometimes we call them ambassadors. These are the chosen employees whose roles are, in the other hand, in addition, again, to their regular employee job, they drive the change among their colleagues. So yes, there are some new job descriptions, but in need to strive and drive the adoption and the change.
So, are the employees being retrained into these new cloud techniques?
Well, yes. When we start developing a plan how to implement the change and deliver it to the employees, we always build a communication and education strategy. The change inside the organization is not much different from placing the product to the market. So you have to sell it to the employees, raise awareness and desire for the coming change. And as I said, a simple email is not enough. You practically have to use various ways to drive this desire among the employees. Omni-channel communication delivered both from the executive and middle management, champions and employees who were early adopters. We sometimes say that in the adoption project, we deliver little marketing campaigns because the principle is the same. You want your employees to be excited for the change and to embrace it. There is also an important part of delivering education to the employees combined with the communications and technology enablement, meaning education can be delivered in so many different ways, from, I don't know, self-serving portals with educational materials to different class trainings, train the trainer, one-to-one classroom, lunchbox presentations, etc. But with the COVID, for example, the need rose more on the online tutorials. But employee engagement must be created as a good mix of communications to understand the change and supporting training materials and online trainings or tutorials that will help employees to start using new ways of working efficiently. Also, before COVID, for example, we were organizing real launch events. But today the approach to the launch is a bit different, but the idea is the same. So we are building all this excitement for the upcoming change, and we want to launch it. We want all impacted audiences to be ready for it.
Thank you, Nina. And to stay on you, can you shortly tell us what are the advantages of working with Infocumulus?
Okay, so I would say that it is our engagement and dedication to the project that is the key advantage. We are with our customer all the way through. So from the beginning to the end, we help them not only to create an adoption project, but to drive it. In coordination with the customer, we have workshops with stakeholders, we develop engagement plans, we deliver trainings, etc. We also monitor user adoption, build and implement improvements activities based on feedback and usage reports. In short, I think the value is in our dedication to tailor the project to our customers' needs, which will support their business values.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, guys. This is all from my side and the questions towards you. Thank you for your participation, for your stories and experience that you shared with us and our guests regarding the multi-cloud journey. Hopefully we will see a bit more knowledge and stories about this. And for you guys, do not forget to join us later on the specific campfires when we will go drill down the specific topics. Our panelists will also be joining on the campfires, and feel free to join us. If you did not register, register to get the reminder, and stay with us and experience the multi-cloud approach and new Infocumulus journey into this topic. Thank you again, and see you later.